The 7 Archons are some of the most powerful beings in Teyvat, with each ruling over one of the 7 nations. However, as time has gone on, some of the Archons have passed away and have been replaced with new Archons. In this video, I'll go over what we know about the God of the Woods, the previous Dendro Archon, as well as speculation on what their role in history could be throughout Sumeru. Also, if you like this video, consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot and really appreciate it. Anyways, let's move right on and get into the video. Truth be told, we know very little about the God of the Woods. Most of what we know comes from a few lines throughout the main story and another brief line from the Viridescent Venerer artifact set. So, this video will be mainly speculation based on the lore we have. I do want to make a lore video on this character, and that will probably come out just after the Sumeru Archon Quests finish up. Anyways, the God of the Woods was most likely the previous Dendro Archon who ruled over the nation of Sumeru. It was said that they died during the Cataclysm 500 years ago, and this is also around the time when Lesser Lord Kusanali rose to the level of Dendro Archon, so it would make a lot of sense that they would be the previous Archon. After their death, it was said that the grass and trees never spoke again to Viridescent, and honestly that's all we really know about them. I did say it wasn't much after all. So now, I'd like to get into my thoughts regarding their history, connections with the other Archons, and how and why they could have died during the Cataclysm. I'd like to start off this section by discussing whether or not the God of the Woods was the original Dendro Archon who won the Archon War or not. I'm quite torn on this question, so let's go over the two possibilities, starting with the belief that they were the original Dendro Archon. If this is the case, they would have been an extremely powerful god, being able to defeat all of the other gods who participated in the Archon War in Sumeru. At the same time though, the God of the Woods was slain during the Cataclysm, which makes me think they weren't actually all that powerful. Perhaps the Dendro Archon who won the Archon War had a title along the lines of the God of Nature or the God of Life, and was replaced at some point by the God of the Woods. Another thought I had was that there could have just been a situation where the God of the Woods was forced to give up some of their power to help Sumeru, much like how Marchosius gave up his power to protect Liyue. Now, let's move on to the connections that the God of the Woods could have had with the other Archons. It is very likely that they knew all 3 of the Archons that we've already met, as both Venti and Zhongli won the Archon War over 2,000 years ago, and A was serving as Makoto's Kagemusha during that time as well. While it is important that these 3 know about the God of the Woods and could give us some lore drops, there is one more Archon who will with very little doubt give us some information about them. That Archon would be none other than the current Dendro Archon, the God of Wisdom, Lesser Lord Kusanali. Being the God of Wisdom and the successor of the title of Dendro Archon, it's quite obvious that Kusanali would have a good amount of information about the God of the Woods, and by that logic, we can assume that she would also know about their death and the circumstances around it. However, I'd like to save the rest of the talk about Kusanali for the next section, so let's move on to briefly discussing Viridescent and her role in this for now. Like I said earlier, after the death of the God of the Woods, the grass and trees never spoke again to Viridescent. To me, this implies that the God of the Woods had a strong resonance with nature, perhaps even being able to speak through plants and the like. This makes it seem like their power level was quite high up there, making me wonder even more how exactly they were killed in the Cataclysm. With that thought, I think it's time to move into the final section of this video, where we go over what I believe part of the Sumeru Archon Quests may be about, the murder mystery of the God of the Woods. It is a fact that the God of the Woods was killed during the Cataclysm, but there is another specific reason why I just called it murder. I believe that they may have been killed by another god, one of the 4 shades of the Primordial One, or potentially even the Unknown God, also known as the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. Perhaps the God of the Woods obtained some pieces of knowledge that were deemed restricted in the eyes of Celestia, and they were thus sentenced to death during the Cataclysm. This is similar to the situation with Orbashi, and also, as I've mentioned in my video of Dust and Rock, maybe the reason that Guizhong died. In my Sumeru speculation video a few weeks back, I had mentioned the push for folly that Dainsleif had spoken of in the Travail trailer, and how I believed it hinted towards a Fatui presence in Sumeru. While I do still think they have a big presence there, I now believe that this line was referring to Celestia. What I mean by this is that if the God of the Woods was truly killed by Celestia in some way, then Kusanali wouldn't want that to get out, as if Celestia found out that everyone knew they were to blame, well, then they might think it's time for another group of people to be wiped off the face of Teyvat. I would also like to bring up the Sumeru Archon Quests title, Truth Amongst the Pages of Purana. In the Sanskrit language, Purana means ancient, and in Hinduism, it can refer to a collection of myths and legends. I believe that in the case of Sumeru, these pages of Purana will be messages and other things left behind by the God of the Woods, perhaps as a sort of puzzle for people to solve and learn the truth of Celestia. This would instead suggest that it is not just Kusanali that is instructing this push for folly, but rather all of Sumeru's sages. Perhaps they would need the help of the Traveler to find more of these documents, and maybe even help to decipher them only in a way the Traveler could. The Traveler has abilities that are unique to them, of course, such as being able to purify Dvalin's tainted blood back in the Mondstadt Archon Quests, or being able to possess every element. In addition, our travels in Ankonomiya have already exposed us to some of the truth behind Celestia, so we would definitely know that they are in the wrong here. I also believe these documents could be a way for the Sumeru storyline to tie in with Scaramouche. He could be searching for these documents as well, perhaps to gain a better understanding of the Gnosis he possesses, or he may even want to know the truth behind Celestia themselves, after learning that the Gnosis is not what he truly wanted. These documents could also be what the Fatui themselves are looking for in Sumeru, as the Tsaritsa's end goal may be to overthrow Celestia and save Teyvat from their reign of tyranny. This of course could introduce us to some new Harbingers, as information about Celestia would be a very high-profile mission for the Fatui. Either way, I do believe that the God of the Woods will have some sort of indirect influence during the Sumeru Archon Quests, and while it may or may not be as big as leaving documents behind that reveal the truth of Celestia, I can be sure that it will be exciting either way. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next video.